The St. Anthony one, we were on a cruise. Like, this woman's crying hysterically. She lost her diamond from her engagement ring, had fallen out of the setting. I said, well, get on your knees and pray to St. Anthony and ask him, and then pray 3 Our Fathers. And I said, I'm going to go back to my cabin now. I'm going to do the same. And then I looked at my son go. 10 minutes later, he comes running down like my son found the diamond.
This is Touched by Heaven. Everyday encounters with God. Those moments when heaven and earth collide. Welcome, episode 230 is here. Trapper Jack with saints. Why should I bother talking to saints? Talking to those who have died? Well, Jesus did it. Say what? Remember, you got Jesus talking to Moses and Elijah, the Transfiguration. Peter, James, and John are over there going, maybe we should put together tents. You know, there's a conversation going on there. And here, so many great episodes of these beautiful heavenly messages that come from departed loved ones. And over again, we hear about it. And everybody loves the St. Anthony stories. Let's just start there. They're just fun. They're just fun. You lose something, and somehow, and I don't remember how, but St. Anthony became the patron saint of lost things, lost people, lost anything and everything, and a lot of things. So let's go to that first, and we'll start with Jane.
Hi, Trapper.
And your email says your St. Anthony story has to do with was a lost wedding ring. So where are we going here?
I'm always looking for a way to evangelize, and I thought, I should email Trapper and tell him, this little story. It's just a cute little story, and I think it was October. I was trying to remember today if it was October or November, but it was fall, and it was a colder Sunday, and I was putting my groceries in the trunk, and I went to close the trunk, and all my rings went flying. And I have an anniversary ring, my wedding set, and then I have a gold band too. And, you just that sick feeling, because you heard them ping, but then you saw them fly, and it was, they were all over the place. So I was able to find all of them except the one gold band. So I must have searched the parking lot probably, I want to say I was there 45 minutes, just looking under cars. If anyone was watching me, they probably thought I was nuts. And I was looking under cars and, looking again in the trunk and just searching everywhere. I even looked through the grocery bags and could not find the gold band. So,
and did the other rings just go off in all directions, so you don't even know what direction, right?
But the gold band I still could not find. So I went home, I told my husband, he said, why don't you call the stores? And if anyone finds it and returns it to one of the stores, then they'll call you. So I did that. The week passed, and during that week, from Sunday to the next Sunday, I think we had a couple rainstorms, and I know there was one day that was very windy. And I was thinking about my ring, and I thought, that's it. Especially with the rain. I just pictured it, traveling to a sewer, in the parking lot.
Plus, think about all the cars that are driving everywhere, over it, around it, whatever,
Yes, exactly. So the next Sunday, my husband and I went to the grocery store together. And when we were walking out, he looked at me. And I swear he knew what I was going to say. And he started putting the groceries in the car, and I said, could I just go and walk over to where I was parked just to see? And he just looked at me, and it's like, oh, Jane, and he said, go on, So I walked over there, and as I was walking towards where I was parked the previous week, I said to St. Anthony, St. Anthony, come on. I said, you're one of my go-tos. I'm always praying to. I'm always praying for others. Please help me. And just then, I swear, it was a sunny day, but I swear the one ray of sun shone on the yellow parking strip, and I was walking in that exact direction. I mean, it was like I was walking towards it. I looked down, and on the yellow parking strip, my gold band was sitting there. So I come back to the car, and my husband just looks at me, with the sad face, and I showed him my ring. And I swear if he could have burst out in tears, he would have. But he was just so shocked at the same time. And he goes, "You're kidding me." And I said, "Nope." I said, "I walked over there, said my prayer to St. Anthony, looked down, and there it was."
And who knows if it got moved there, it was always there, whatever the deal is. But the fact it's on the strip means cars kept pulling in and out, not crossing that, not running on that.
But you know what? It is rough around the edges. Like it had been knocked around a little bit.
Oh, okay.
And, my husband was looking at it, he goes, "Oh, yeah, it's kind of beat up a little bit." And I said, I will never have that fixed. I will never have the spring fixed. Because every day it reminds me of the miracles that happen.
Oh, I love you. I love you for doing that, for not trying to fix it. It's like, no, that's part of the story here, right?
Right. And for it to be sitting, I'm looking at a yellow parking line right now, but for it to be sitting on the yellow parking line was just when I wrote you in my email and said that, that after my father passed away, the priest told me, "Jane, they're all around us. It's just a thin veil." It truly is. It not just for our relatives and friends who have passed, for the saints in heaven. They are so close to us.
What a cool story. And I still contend St. Anthony is the busiest saint in the world. Other saints sitting around just eating Cheetos with orange fingers, doing nothing. And this guy is just finding everything we ask him to. It's incredible.
I think that my takeaway is that the priest was exactly right. It is a thin veil, and we have to pay attention to those communications that are being sent to us and the love from our loved ones, even the saints. They are here with us, they're guiding us, and they know what's going on. They just see it through different eyes now.
Thanks, Jane. I think that priest is right. There is just that thin veil. We're going back to Anna. Anna was back in episode 219. She had some St. Anthony stories as well. Remember the lost sunglasses story? Her husband, Mike, had been out in the ocean like an hour before, and a wave hits him in the face, and the sunglasses go flying, and that's that. An hour has passed. The ocean is churning. Waves are, all that kind of stuff. And she goes, "You lost your way." And she heads out praying to St. Anthony to find the sunglasses in the ocean.
If you can't find something, you ask St. Anthony and pray 3 Our Fathers. Like my dad taught me that. But then again, it's more like I just want to show Mike that, God can do this, right? But I'm walking in and I'm like starting to think I'm crazy. Like I'm walking in like it's not so clear water. It's murky water. I can't see anything. I'm walking in, I'm like knee deep, and I'm like, okay, you've lost your mind. You have totally lost your mind. But I'm like, "St. Anthony, please." And then I'm like, what am I supposed to do? So I just stopped, and I know it's the Holy Spirit. And I just said, "Please bring the sunglasses to me. And I don't care if they're completely mangled. I just want to find them. Please bring them to me." And those words uttered, and then I saw a shadow. I put my hand in the water, and out came the sunglasses. Intact, not a scratch on them. I was like, I started running like I had seen Jesus walking on water. And I'm running, and I come out, and I ran up to my husband. I put the sunglasses in his face, and I said, "God wants your attention."
I love that story. And now Anna's back with more stories of St. Anthony. First one involves a cruise they were on from New York down to Bermuda, and there's trouble on the boat.
And I hear this commotion in the hall outside my cabin. Like this woman's crying hysterically. And I come out and I said, like, "What's going on?" She's crying out to this other woman. She lost her diamond from her engagement ring, and she's just a wreck.
So the stone itself has fallen out of the ring?
Whether it was like a 2-carat diamond or something, had fallen out of the setting. I said to her, "Well, are you sure? Like, when was the last time you noticed like the diamond was actually in your ring?" She goes, "When I was in the hot tub earlier today." And I was like, "Oh." All of a sudden, like one of my sons with one of his friends comes like flying down the steps. As they're showing up, I'm asking this woman, I'm like, "Are you Catholic?" And she said, "Yes." I said, "Well, go back to your cabin, get on your knees, and pray to St. Anthony and ask him, and then pray 3 Our Fathers and ask him to help you find your diamond. And I said, I'm going to go back to my cabin and I'm going to do the same. And then I looked at my son, who was probably about 10 or 11 years old at the time. Go back up to the pool deck and start looking for a diamond. Because like I said, like finding like a needle in a haystack, like he ran up to the pool deck and like, I'm telling you, Trapper, it was 10 minutes later, he comes running down. Like my son found the diamond.
Oh my gosh. Where?
But there's this big bin where you throw your used towels on the pool deck. And next on the deck of the pool by the towel bin, he found the diamond. Like he went right to it.
Jeez.
He found it right away. It's like he was led right to it. He was dumbfounded. And I was like, oh my gosh. We go to their cabin door and we knock on her cabin door with the diamond. It's like beside herself. She's like hugging him and kissing him and saying, thank you so much. And she was like, she couldn't believe it. Who finds a diamond? We're talking a big cruise ship. We're not talking a little boat.
And it's just a tiny little thing. Looks nice in a setting, but it's just a tiny little thing sitting there.
Right.
That's very awesome. And to this day, the woman still has her engagement ring diamond. So there you go.
Yeah, well, we think. Who knows?
We hope. The marriage fell apart, but she still got that ring.
Who knows? We have no idea. We have not followed them. My husband and I, for year 20, we had special rings made. They were blessed. So we went to Citizens Bank Park, which back then was Phillies play baseball. And we went to a baseball game and we were down in our seats and he says, oh my gosh, Anna, I've lost my ring. And I was like, what? Because they were like family rings. So we had the birthstones of all 7 of us and they were very, very, expensive rings and we had them blessed and we had renewed our vows with these rings. And we weren't wearing them in lieu of our wedding rings, but it was just like an anniversary ring for our 20th anniversary. I was like, oh my gosh, 2 weeks after, it was like just had happened. Our anniversary had just happened. So he goes, well, maybe when I was in the bathroom washing my hands, I was like, oh my gosh. So we go to, this is a baseball stadium. Okay.
This is where the Philadelphia Phillies play, you say?
Yes.
Okay.
So we went to, back to the bathroom where he said he had gone. So I'm outside the men's room and I'm praying my heart out and he's in there and doesn't he empty out the whole trash can and finds his ring.
In the trash can. So he wadded it up with the paper and... Yeah,
but the thing is too, at those places, those trash cans get replaced quite frequently because you have thousands of people going to the bathroom.
Gee.
My oldest son, who is away from the faith, during college, he went to visit a friend in San Francisco, and he calls me and he says, I need you to FedEx me my passport. This is before, like now you gotta have to travel with passports even domestically, but this was back then you just needed your driver's license, So he says, you need to FedEx me my passport. And I said, why? He goes, because I lost my wallet. I was like, what? He said they were at clubs and stuff. And he goes, yeah, my wallet's gone, Mom. I lost it somewhere last night in San Francisco. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I said, start praying to St. Anthony, but he wasn't praying. So I started praying. I get a phone call from him like a few hours later. A couple found his wallet under their car in downtown San Francisco when they came out of their house. And because of his Drexel ID, they contacted the school and the school was able to contact him. He was able to go to their house to get his wallet and there was nothing missing from inside his wallet.
They found it under their car outside their house.
Under the car in the city of San Francisco. And he called me the morning after he lost it.
Holy.
And I said, okay, we have to start praying to St. Anthony. And I don't know whether he did or didn't, but I did. And I was like, we have to pray. And within a couple of hours in the street, and it just happened to fall under the car of some very honest people who looked through it and said, oh, he's a student at Drexel University. Maybe we can track him down through the university. I mean, took the time and effort. And they were able to track him down.
Crazy. That's crazy. All right. Once again, Anna, thank you so much. A quick pause here and just thank everybody for your consideration and supporting what we do here at Touched by Heaven. Sylvia, can I ask you what is it that took you from being listeners to not only, giving your story here, but a while back joining the family?
I just feel like I wanted to support you and your wife in doing this because I think it gives people a chance to tell their story and for the listeners to feel as though there is, it lifts their faith. Anything that helps people lift their faith is always a good thing. And I'm appreciative of that. And I know it touched my heart to hear a lot of those stories. And, it's really real. It's such a uplifting feeling that I get when I hear the people just telling what happens to them. And it just blows my mind. And I really love it. And you also inspired me to start praying the rosary.
Thank you, Sylvia, for your testimonial. And a big Patreon shout out to Joni Cantrell, who's just come aboard the Patreon family. Thank you, Joni, for joining. Is that a Joni for joining? That's, for a trained professional, don't try this at home. It's dangerous. Thank you, Joni, for joining. See, I'm telling you. So to do what some have done, go to patreon.com and search for Trapper Jack, or come here to episode 230 and click your way through. All right, now then, saints talking to saints. I'll tell you, and saints talk to us. There is a saint that got my attention a little while back. Actually, he did it this year and last year on the same day. Notable that he got my attention both years on September 22nd, one day before his feast day of September 23rd. It's kind of like, hi, remember me because tomorrow's my day? St. Padre Pio, the famous St. Padre Pio. Just everything about this man, amazing. And he died just back in 1968. This is a modern era saint we know a lot about. I just read a story about this one incredible, they're all incredible miracles, but this had to do with a girl that was born without pupils in her eyes. In other words, blind, a birth defect, no pupils, you can't see. And he prayed over her, and guess what? And she's still alive today, is the deal. Gianna, she's got to be in her 80s now. Here's an old video.
Gemma's eyes have never changed. They're still the eyes of one who is blind. Gemma's eyes, without pupils. It's anatomically impossible that these eyes can see. But she's as able to see as you and I. She is able to see and to distinguish colors. Without any help, she can cross the most crowded streets. She wears sunglasses to hide the fact that she still has the eyes of one who was born blind.
Just one more incredible miracle story of Padre Pio. But how he got my attention on September 22nd was that we were about to go over to Medjugorje, Italy, all that kind of stuff. I was cleaning out my audio recorder, freeing up some space for any interviews I might happen to have in Medjugorje or Italy. And in the process, I saw this one particular interview that just stopped me cold. And I'm going, wait a minute, Father James Mondock. Wait. That was like 2 years ago? 2 years ago, I remembered that he was living in a nursing home, in bed 24/7, a lot of health issues, but he kind of runs his own ministry from there online and also for nurses and stuff like that. And I remembered that much, but I couldn't remember what we talked about. So I listened to the interview and St. Padre Pio. So anyway, Father was talking to me about how in the 50s, when he was just a young boy, like 10 years old, and a buddy of his grandmother used to travel to Italy and go to Padre Pio's masses. So when this happened, what you're about to hear happened, Padre Pio was still alive.
And here I'm a 10-year-old kid, and, I'm just sitting here listening for the heck of it. Well, the entire house filled with this strong odor of roses. I got up and I ran around the house, being a kid, trying to find out where the smell was coming from. It filled the whole house, and it was very strong. That, of course, as I grew older, I came to know that was a sign that he was there. He was under a bilocation. She said that she regularly went to confession to him, although she said with apprehension because he seemed to know people's sins before they confessed them. When Grandma visited him, she would always attend the masses he celebrated. She said that the masses were quite long and that he suffered with great pain and bleeding from the stigmata that was in his hands during the liturgy. She said that once Padre Pio came to her with communion, As he went to deposit the host on her tongue, 2 small scabs from his wounded hand fell off onto the communion rail. And of course, in those days, you knelt down when you received communion. As it continued on, Grandma took out a small handkerchief and very carefully put the scabs into it and folded it up, placing it in her purse. She mentioned a story about the scabs and asked if we would like to see them. And of course, we said yes, because it was part of him. She brought out the handkerchief and laid it carefully on the table. As she began unfolding it, the scent of what smelled like roses once again came from the handkerchief, and it filled the air. When we looked down at it, the blackened scabs, and they were approximately, I would say, a quarter of an inch around, had turned into 2 perfectly shaped small crosses. Needless to say, we were all really surprised and amazed. She folded the handkerchief back up, and Grandma remarked that Padre Pio is a man of many miracles, including healings, bilocation, levitation, and he's a visionary. And he was quite famous all over Italy at the time, and this was in the mid-early 50s. Believe me when I say that they were perfect blackened crosses instead of crusty small scabs. Sometimes a miracle comes in a little package. And they'd be a first-class relic. I mean, the man's own blood. And I can still see those crosses in the handkerchief on the table and smell the air. The air was it was a beautiful smell. And all these years I've carried it, the story, in the back of my mind. And one day when I was reading, I got your post on the in the email, and I was reading it, and I said, I talk about miracles. There's a little miracle that's very meaningful, and I think I'd like to relay it to somebody. So
Yeah. Well, that's a beautiful story, Father. I'm a big fan of Padre Pio also. I mean, I just think he was something and remains something. He shows up in a lot of people's lives to this day, obviously.
He underwent such persecution from within the church, forbid him from saying Mass or from hearing confessions or from, this poor guy was just suffered immensely.
Yeah, that's true. There was a lot of jealousy about his incredible gifts.
God bless you.
God bless you too. Thank you, Father. Father, mentioning there was a lot of persecution of Padre Pio, and there was. And there were some jealous friars there, and they lied about Padre Pio. And so they basically put Padre Pio away for 2 years. He couldn't celebrate Mass, couldn't hear confession, couldn't write to anybody, couldn't be spiritual director. They basically told him, just go sit in your cell and don't even look outside. And he obeyed. For 2 years, he just took it until finally a doctor came forward, someone who had investigated, who had documented the stigmata, the wounds on his body, and said, hey, it's real, guys. I saw the wounds, the quarter-size wounds in his hands and his feet, and you could look right through his feet and hands. I saw the wound in his side from the spear, if you will. I saw it bleeding. I could smell that sweet smell like flowers coming from the wounds. I mean, he just documented all, and he came forward and he just said, hey, all this is true. What are you doing, And he wrote to the Pope and all this kind of, and so finally they went, oh, and then they freed him, if you will. But the amazing thing about Padre Pio, amidst all the miracles and being in more than one place at a time, bilocating and miracle, was just how he was so obedient. He just obeyed, and that humility, just absolutely amazing. And again, my conversation with Father Mondoc was from a couple of years ago, so I just called him again just to kind of catch up. Now we're going to go back to a conversation I had 4 years ago, and I haven't used this either. I'm just bouncing, because I bounced into saints in the process here. As long as we're talking about healing, our buddy Roy was watching EWTN one night, and Mother Angelica was on. This was back in 1997.
My daughter is autistic, epileptic, nonverbal, mind of a one, and she's 40 years old in August, and she got the mind of a 1 or 1.5-year-old. I see EWTN, I see Mother Angelica, and she looks out there and says, if any of you have somebody that's you need a miracle, go pray to Father Solanus, who at that time wasn't as well known as he is now.
Solanus Casey. Says here he died in 1957 at the age of 86. He was such a simple man and a priest. They wouldn't even let him preach. They didn't even let him preach.
Amen. That's the truth.
I think he could celebrate the Mass, but he wasn't allowed to talk. And it's like...
He wasn't allowed to give theology, correct. He wasn't allowed to give theology speeches. He was so holy, they didn't want to lose him, so they made him what was called in those days a simplex priest. And that doesn't even exist anymore. You know what I mean? And I don't know if he even would have...
And he was kind of this, they call him the gatekeeper, doorkeeper, whatever. Where,
he was a porter.
Yeah, yep. And, I mean, this guy, it was so simple, but his heart was so pure that when he prayed, things happened.
Exactly.
Miracle after, I mean, people would line up. The governor would come to him. I've heard all these stories in Michigan of all these people lining up to meet the guy who's at the door. He's not even able to preach in church, but he's sure able to pray for people, and so many miracle stories.
He's considered blessed.
There are levels on the way to sainthood. Servant of God, and then blessed, and then canonized as a saint. So Solanus Casey is at the blessed level right now, but he'll certainly get there.
I see Mother Angelica. The episode she was showing was somebody who had a child that was healed of seizures many years before, who went to the same neurologist my kid was going to, who had been healed of seizures, and I got inspired. Well, what happened was my kid, for 17 years of life, she had seizures almost every day of some type, and she had been part of a experimental drug. And I'm a pharmacist, so she was part of this program. Meanwhile, I'm praying to Father Solanus to pray for us.
Well, explain what happened. Talk about that day.
Okay, it was St. Bonaventure Church where he did most of his ministry.
This is in the Detroit, Michigan area.
So I wheel her in there in a wheelchair, and because she can't walk far in those days, and I wheel her in there, and we go in there, and we go to what's called healing mass. There's a healing mass on Wednesdays. People were coming from out of state sometimes.
So obviously you're at this healing service, and you're praying for the intercession.
You're praying for somebody to pray for you that you feel has a little more clout.
Yeah. But in this, God is glorified.
My kid had seizures almost every day for 17 years, and suddenly she doesn't have a seizure for 128 days. That kind of got my attention. That gets your attention real fast.
And that's what happened.
That's exactly what happened.
128 days. You must have thought you were in heaven. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, we were. My daughter, who has these seizures that were so debilitating, she used to walk like a gorilla, wouldn't even walk straight after a while. After that, she started walking straight. Now, I couldn't run to the Pope and say, miracle, 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 chalk one up for Father Solanus, because there was a drug program involved, okay? And so I figured, well, we had 128 days, which we never had before. And when things went kind of in reverse, I said, well, you know what it was? I told my wife, you joined the church, I joined the church. That was the purpose of the whole thing. It resulted us in joining the church, which was wonderful. He's been a saint in this house long before he got status. We got his picture everywhere. And my daughter's doing so much better, and I can see her smiling a lot. And
people always say, well, why don't you just go straight to Jesus? Well, you can. There's nothing wrong with going straight to Jesus. But
not at all.
But at the same time, if I ask you, hey, Roy, would you please pray for me? I have surgery on Saturday. You're going to say, absolutely. Saints are going to have a little more clout because they're closer. They're closer,
That doesn't mean that you don't pray to God and pray to Jesus. You do that all the time, just like all Christians.
Absolutely. But it's all one family. Yeah.
I don't know about anybody else. I'm looking for a gang.
You're looking for all the clout you can get on these things.
Well, my daughter has been the center of my wife and our life, but she's really gave us a blessing. And I mean, talk about something that makes you more spiritual. I never was able to teach her anything. She's still in diapers. I couldn't teach her anything, but guess what? She has taught me everything. I taught her nothing.
About what has she taught you?
Well, spiritual. She taught me how to get what's important in life. I mean, my wife would say many times, I used to be very materialistic, but not after we took care of Tiffany. You know what I mean? Our personalities change. I mean, even to this day, there's a lot of challenges. My wife's more and more ill all the time. And I retired. I'm 72, but I'm in good shape. Praise God. And I still got the strength to take care of my two girls. I give myself over to Jesus more and God. You know, I get a lot of comfort, and I haven't felt that in a long time. It's come through your podcast. I've gotten closer, centering on the miraculous and things I never knew about. You even answered some of my questions so far, and I'm only on, I got a lot of episodes to go yet. I got a lot to catch up on. I used to talk to God all the time as a little kid, like he was my best friend, but then I got away from that. Now I heard you talking about that. I'm kind of getting that back again.
Oh, good. I tell you, it's a total difference, isn't it? It's a total mind shift.
Yeah. I mean, as an adult, I kind of drifted away. I mean, it was that way as a kid. People thought I was a little kid. I was crazy. I was always talking to myself, but really I was talking to what I thought was my best friend, God.
God bless you,
Can't
Roy.
say enough good things about you. Take care. Please,
you're so
please
sweet.
stay safe. This world really needs you. Please stay safe.
Thanks, Roy. You're a saint in my eyes, buddy. You are a saint. You and Eleanor, and everything you've done for your daughter, Tiffany. 40 plus years old now, learning by the experience and blessed by the experience. Let's see. One more saint. Let's do one more saint here. Let's talk about Saint Therese, little flower, because when you get a sign of a flower or a bunch of flowers, or she gives you answers by flowers. That's kind of her, that's her sign, if you will. So we're going to talk to Amy in this one.
You know, Saint Teresa had always been my go-to through my years. The little flower.
Yeah. Okay. Of Lisieux. Okay.
Of Lisieux, yes. And I forgot, during my life, I'm thinking I'm going to be a nun. Okay. I had dreams about it. I had my life was going to be dedicated to the Lord. And so I prayed one day because, of course, I met a boy and I had not experienced love in what I thought was love. And I decided maybe I do want to be a mom. Maybe I want to get married and have a family. So I thought I better pray on this. And I prayed and I prayed to Saint Therese, would it be God's will if I marry? Would that be okay? Because I know I'm set out to be a nun. After being in church and whatnot, and just by myself and praying, I came out and on top of my car was a red rose. And there were no rose bushes. There were no flowers around. There was nowhere for it to come from. And
it's sitting on top of the car, like above your head,
yes,
in that area.
Correct.
Wow.
It's on top of the car.
Single red rose.
Just a single red rose. And so I thought, wow, that was fast. So
and you take that as a yes, it's okay to get married.
I do.
Okay.
And I get married. And we were given, when I found out I was pregnant, there were two caretakers that were taking care of my paternal grandfather. And one of the women that cared for him brought this, and I mean huge, statue of Saint Therese over to our house. I was thrilled. I thought, oh my gosh. And they said, this is for the baby's room. Now you can have a Saint Teresa in the room for you. When you're praying, you'll have her right there. And, I have a baby girl and I'm very excited. And I gave her a name of Teresa Christina as part of my thank you to God. She's maybe in the first couple weeks. And one night I, place her in her crib. I said, okay, Saint Teresa, your job is to now take over and guard my daughter, So I have our daughter in the crib, St. Teresa's there. I leave her room and I have the monitor on, and my husband and I we get on the internet, which was a big deal then. But all of a sudden I hear my daughter's mobile start, which can't start unless you turn it. And I'm like, he and I both look at each other and we're like, why is her mobile on? So as I turn around to go in her room, it stopped. The noise stopped. And I thought, it happens, okay, whatever. So all of a sudden, it happens again, a few minutes later, and we're like, So this time I get up and we're both walking into her room. And now I'm like, I don't know. I immediately went over to her and she's not breathing, and I'm like, Teresa. And I'm like, shaking her, and she didn't appear to be waking up. And I'm just like, Teresa, and then all of a sudden I hear this cry and I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you, Lord. And I just picked her up and I just held her tight. And then I looked over and there's St. Teresa on the dresser. And I just looked at her and I said, thank you for getting my attention. Thank you. I just was so thankful, because if she had not turned that mobile, got that noise, I wouldn't have known to go in her room. I just still attribute that to them, everybody, the saints, to St. Teresa, to God, and
that's scary and blessed and everything in between. Yeah.
Yes, it was. I just felt truly that God, He always seemed to send these signs throughout my life that I'm here, I've got you, and you're fearful, but you're forgetting I'm right here.
You took me back to our baby monitor days when you're hearing noises, and then when it gets too quiet and it's too quiet and you go in and check and, okay, baby's okay. But to have that moment where you go in and the baby's not breathing. Wow. Thank you, St. Therese. It goes either way, right? Little Flower, Blessed Solanus Casey, St. Padre Pio, St. Anthony, the Hall of Famers, if you will. If you want to know how to play football, you look at those in the Football Hall of Fame, Baseball Hall of Fame. That's the Hall of Fame. Those saints on. We can learn from them. Take a look at their lives, how they did what they did. Each saint has such a great story. And I'm flashing on Mother Angelica of EWTN, often talking about how she hated most saints' biographies because they made them out to be these wispy, just heavenly creatures. And no, they were fiery. Padre Pio, fiery. These are people with backbones. These are people with stories. These are people who were up against it a lot, and teach us how to persevere and have hope and to aim for heaven. Thanks to everybody in this episode, to helping us understand more about saints and their intercession in our lives and their prayers for us. They are for us and rooting for us. All right, what is your story? Get a hold of me here at touchedbyheaven.net. Thanks for helping us out through Patreon, patreon.com, if you want to help support what we do, and if these episodes are a blessing to you. And we will do this again next week, okay? Touched by Heaven, everyday encounters with God. I'm Trapper Jack, recalling the time my wife lost me, had to go to St. Anthony. You know where she found me?
Under their car.